Hi y'all, it's Suzanne again. Making a video that I'm probably gonna delete and not show anybody because I don't know. I got that self-esteem thing, self-consciousness thing. I don't know. I don't want people to think I'm nuts kind of thing, but normally when I've recorded these videos, even though I've deleted them, I've always recorded videos of me reading Bible passages of stuff that I've already read and wanted to go back to and revisit. So I thought I'd change it up a little bit tonight and actually do some reading that I have not read yet. I am still on Matthew. I'm telling you, Matthew is taking forever. I know I don't read much every day. Let's see, I think Matthew goes to 28. Okay, 28. I'm on 20. Where am I? 22, 23, I believe. Yep. Matthew 22, 23. The topic is discussion about resurrection. Let me just preface this by saying the very last verse is of the last part where give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. That is Matthew 22, 21. I'm sorry, it's hard to read that. Caesar's, they replied. Well then, he said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. 22. His reply amazed them and they went away. Okay, so here's where I'm going to start. I haven't read this yet myself, so this is a first for me. I'm going to read something that I haven't read yet to a video. So they give you a topic. This one is discussion about resurrection. So this is now Matthew 23. I'm sorry, Matthew 22, 23 and onward. That same day, Jesus was approached by some Sadducees, religious leaders who say there is no resurrection from the dead. No, I read this already. They posed the question. Teacher, Moses said, if a man dies without children, his brother should marry the widow and have a child who will marry on the brother's name. Well, suppose there were 7 brothers. The oldest one married and then died without children, so his brother married the widow. But the second brother also died, and the third brother married her. This continued with all 7 of them. Last of all, the woman also died. So tell us, whose wife will she be in the resurrection? For all 7 were married to her. Jesus replied, this is why it takes so long. Every time Jesus speaks, it takes a while to take it in. Jesus replied, your mistake is that you don't know the scriptures, and you don't know the power of God. For when the dead rise, they will neither marry nor be given in marriage. In this respect, they will be like the angels in heaven. Like, people still don't get it. Like, life in heaven is not like life. It's not like life on earth magnified. It's an entirely different thing. Like, that's what he kept trying to get them to understand with all these parables. Like, we ask God to do unto us, as you would do unto heaven. I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry. I get so caught up in thinking about what he's saying and like the implications, and it's deep. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to start again. Jesus replied, your mistake is that you don't know the scriptures and you don't know the power of God. For when the dead rise, they will neither marry nor be given in marriage. In this respect, they will be like the angels in heaven. They were never people to begin with. Like, that's what you're losing, being earthbound in a person. But now, as to whether there will be a resurrection of the dead, haven't you ever read about this in the scriptures? Long after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had died, God said, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, and the God of Jacob. So he is the God of the living, not the dead. When the crowds heard him, they were astounded at his teaching. I think part of being a true spiritual person, Christian, I guess, for lack of a better word, is not trying to read the Bible fast enough where you can say to people, oh, well, I read the Bible. Like, the whole point is to read it slow and to read it over and over again and to read the same passages over and over again and really get it. Like, I don't keep track of numbers. That's my job on a day-to-day basis, is to keep track of numbers. I'm not going to do that in my personal life. I'm just not. You know, I'll say, I read that in Matthew 21, 2-ish somewhere. And I don't mind going back and looking through. I mean, it's not like you're not talking about a 1,200 page Stephen King book. You're talking about the Bible, number one. Number two, this is like it's actually called the New Living Translation. It's obviously not in the he, thou, art type of language, which actually I think is what's keeping me interested. If it were in that type of language, I probably would have lost interest by now. It speaks to me in language that I understand, but yet it doesn't change the message. It doesn't change the portrayal, the truth that Jesus was speaking. So it's hard. So I can't just, read 3 chapters of Matthew and not take in at all. Like, what is the point of reading it if I'm not taking it in? This is why I do it so slow. Okay. I'm going to go back to this once more. I'm sorry. Because Jesus is speaking again. Jesus replied, "Your mistake is that you don't know the scriptures and you don't know the power of God. For when the dead rise, they will neither marry nor be given in marriage. In this respect, they will be like the angels in heaven." What he's basically saying is I just said this. What is on earth is not what is in heaven. We ask for earth to be like heaven, but we do not get that. If we did, then what would be the point of going to heaven? Earth is not heaven. Earth is not like heaven. Even though we pray to God, on earth as it is in heaven, we will never be like heaven. I'm sorry, Jesus is still speaking. "But now, as to whether there will be a resurrection of the dead, haven't you ever read about this in the scriptures? Long after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had died, God said, 'I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.' So he is the God of the living, not the dead." When the crowds heard him, they were astounded by his teaching. So this next section is the topic is titled "The Most Important Commandment." Well, let's see what this says. "But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees with his reply, they met together to question him again. One of them, an expert in religious law, tried to trap him with this question: 'Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses?' Jesus replied, 'You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment.'" Absolutely. "A second is equally important. Important. Love your neighbor as yourself." This is why I try to always refer in my videos or my posts, and I call people neighbors and friends. Like, that's from this. As difficult as it is to consider these people neighbors and friends, we have to. That is specifically what God is asking us to do, to love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these 2 commandments. Next topic. Whose son is the Messiah? Excuse me. Then, surrounded by the Pharisees, Jesus asked them a question. "What do you think about the Messiah? Whose son is he?" They replied, "He is the son of David." Jesus responded, "Then why does David, speaking under the inspiration of the Spirit, call the Messiah my Lord? For David said, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit in the place of honor at my right hand until I humble your enemies beneath your feet.' Since David called the Messiah my Lord, how can the Messiah be his son?" No one could answer him, and after that, no one dared to ask him any more questions. So now we're on to Matthew 23. Jesus criticizes the religious leaders. Oh, see, I need to take a break now. There's so much to take in. So much to take in if you're really truly trying to take it in not any other perspective, not a religious perspective, not a Christian perspective, just a human being perspective and a spiritual perspective. And this is my relationship with my God. This is my God. Nobody else's God. It's not my concern whether or not this is anybody else's God. Well, no, that's actually completely false. It is absolutely my concern whether or not. But all I'm asked to do is to gather, talk to people about it. And the more I read about it and learn about it and study about it and really think about it like nonstop, like I think about it nonstop, the more I talk about it. And that is how I'm gathering the sheep. That is what I was tasked with to do, is to gather, not save, gather. Saving people is not my job. It is not my job. I am not the Son of Man. I am not the Messiah. I was not crucified and suffered, died, and was buried for the sins of others. That was not me. But it can be me now, and I can do my best as a human being with flaws to understand it the best I can and portray it to others. See, and then I make these videos and I feel like I make perfect sense, and then I watch them like the next day, and then I'm totally self-conscious, and then I feel stupid, and then I feel like people are judging me, and then I get inside my own head and I like to pick up a bat instead of a feather and just beat myself up. But I believe in this. I mean, the more I read it, and people that know me know I don't fall for things. I'm smart enough to understand the difference between religion and spirituality, and my relationship with God and my relationship with my church, and, one's earthly and one's spiritual. And that is what I'm learning more than anything. And I can only ask that others do that too. Nobody's asking you to be a Christian. I'm not asking you to label yourself a Christian. I'm asking you to simply listen to some of the things I've read, take them for yourself. This is not for one group or set of people. This is for everybody. These are just natural human life lessons, good behavior, morals, values that everybody should have. I don't know what happened to that, because when my generation was growing up in the 90s and we were the, main focus, boy, we sure weren't like the generation these days. Anyway, I'm digressing. I do that all the time. I'm going to go. I'm still not done with Matthew. Where am I now? Chapter 23. And I have to go to Matthew 28. I have been reading Matthew for weeks. I'm not kidding. Well, I might be exaggerating because I have no concept of time, but Matthew is tough. Revelation was easy. Like I said, that was a page turner. That was easy. Daniel, which is the last book of the Old Testament, which also actually had direct relation and gave specifics that Revelation spoke about, which was the last book of the New Testament. So you're talking 2,000 years later, and they both match up. Like, that was easy. That was like a page turner. Reading the words of Jesus are more time consuming, takes more time, makes you think. I'm sitting back and thinking, I'm not saying anything. I'm not trying to convince people one way or the other. I'm just telling you what it's doing to me and the way it's making me feel and the things it's making me think about outside of myself. I never considered myself somebody that was very self-loving, but I think that for the majority of human beings, I think that's just a natural human being fault, is that we're self-loving and self-serving. And excuse me, till I started to really read and think about this more, I didn't realize I was as self-serving as I was. I mean, things don't change overnight. I'm not going to be able to fix it overnight. I can't all of a sudden go from being an everyday, every minute, every second sinner to all of a sudden, following the 10 Commandments to the T, and that's the only way I'm going to get into heaven. And that stuff weighs on me now more than ever, man. Anyway. All right, y'all. Or myself, whoever ends up seeing this. I love you. Good night. I work and live. I live 2 miles from my work, and it took me 1 hour and 35 minutes to get home tonight. I waited 40 minutes for the shuttle bus before I gave up, walked up Madison Avenue to Lark Street, grabbed the 18 bus, which goes up Delaware, which took forever because all the traffic was diverted because of the fire, and I should not complain and be angry, but to go 2 miles, it took me an hour and a half, at 1 hour and 35 minutes, and that kind of pissed me off. So I've been kind of grumpy the rest of the night and like ready to pounce. Maybe that's why I made this video. I don't know. I just felt like being honest and truthful. I don't know. Stop digressing, Suzanne. All right. Good night, y'all. Love you. Love America. God bless America. God bless Lavoy Finicum. I've been thinking about him a lot lately. Again. I don't know why. I've been watching some of his videos and stuff again. Oh, because I saw the documentary today, so I've been like kind of revisiting a lot of his stuff, and I miss him terrible every day, every day, every day. Good night, America. Take care. Be safe. Love each other. Love your neighbors. I'm going to read it again. Hold on. Just read it. The 2 most important commandments, right? The most important, actually, and he listed 2. I'm going to read this one more time. This is Matthew 22, 34 to 46. The most important commandment. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees with his reply, they met together to question him again. One of them, an expert in religious law, tried to trap him with this question. Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses? Jesus replied, here's his exact answer. You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these 2 commandments. So he was only asked to give the most important, and he gave 2. And he gave 2, and he gave the second one equal importance, which means they're both number 1, basically. Think about it. Neighbors, folks, friends, Americans, patriots, liberals. Just think. Good night, America. Love you. Until the next time I feel the need to video diary or whatever this is. Take it easy.